Hello, class. Welcome to our lesson today in section 5.3. Section 5.3 and 5.4 overlap a little bit, and so I'm going to be doing a little bit extra in terms of 5.3 today. I want to make sure that we're clear before we start that when we solve questions with writing proportions, the expectation is that you're going to set them up and you're going to solve them in a few different ways. So just make sure you're aware of that as we keep moving forward in these lessons over the next few days. The first thing we're going to look at is just something dealing with a batter's height and a bat length. This is a baseball idea, but really you don't have to know anything about the topic because all you have to do is read the idea that says the bat length should be half the batter's height. So if you're 62 inches tall, the bat's 31 inches long. And so really it's just a 2-to-1 ratio or divide by 2. So if you just take your height, divide by 2, that'd be 29. 60 divided by 2 equals 30. 64 divided by 2 is 32. Now the trouble with that is it also comes into account the height and weight of the person. So this only deals with height, but weight also could affect what bat you use and your arm length. But this is just a simple divide by 2. Now, if we look at this scenario, the problem is it says to write a proportion to find the bat length. So this is a good example of I know what I'm looking at, I know what I need to do to find the answer, but I'm not reading the directions appropriately. So you want to make sure that on your questions, if it says to write a proportion, you have to write a proportion. And we'll be looking at some of those here in a minute. So if I was grading this and this was a test situation, okay, you would miss some points because you didn't write a proportion for that situation. Things to keep in mind for the future. Okay, the next thing that we're going to look at is also a baseball idea, but it's called batting average. But notice here, you don't have to know anything about batting average to be successful. A good math question allows you to be successful even if you don't quite understand the topic. Batting average is hits divided by at-bats. So if you're batting 0.25, that's batting 250, which says in 250 hits in 1,000 at-bats, that's batting 250 out of 1,000. Okay, so that's the idea of what you're looking at. So we're going to set some proportions up using that information. Okay, write a proportion for the hits that are needed. Okay, I have 50 at-bats, so I don't know how many hits I have, but it's over 50. And then its batting average is 200, which is 200 over 1,000. That's strictly like a decimal fraction idea. In order to solve the proportion, one way to solve a proportion is to see if there's a relationship amongst the bottom or the top numbers. So 1,000 divided by 20 would be 50, which means I'd have to take 200 divided by 20 to get my x value, or h value if you use h for the number of hits, and that would be 10. This next one is 84 at-bats, so it's x over 84. Batting average 250 over 1,000. What you may find is simplifying the 250 over 1,000 may make your life a little bit easier. So 250 over 1,000, you could cancel the zeros out. That's 25 over 100, and simplify that down to 1/4. And then this would be times 21 and times 21. So 21 would be your answer. There are other ways to find that answer, but one option is to deal with it with just a simple multiplier divide from left to right in order to figure out the solution. Okay, the next question is very interesting. So you have players 1 and 2. They have the same amount of hits and same amount of at-bats. So they both have the exact same batting average. Player 1 gets 4 hits in his next 5 at-bats. So I'm going to add 4 to the hits and make that 49. Add 5 to the at-bats, that's 137. Their batting average, if you just do a division, so take 49 divided by 137, rounded to 3 spots is .358. So that person has raised their average because they got 4 hits in their next 5 at-bats. They got better. Think of it like a test. Okay, they raised their grade. The other player, player 2, got 3 hits and 3 at-bats. So they haven't done anything bad. They've gotten every point possible. Okay, and that would be 48 out of 135 now. But notice their batting average or grade is a little bit lower than the other players. Does this seem fair? A lot of people say, no, that's not fair. This person got every point possible that they could have, and they still have a lower grade or a lower score or lower batting average. The problem is this person has more chances. Okay, and so once you get all your chances put in, okay, then you'll start to see the averages change a little bit. And this would be similar to the idea of grades. You may have a different grade than someone else. Your grade actually may be lower or higher depending on what you've already done. But the unknown fact of, let's say you haven't taken a test, that would change your grade. And so those things come into play in these situations. Okay, your homework's going to have some questions that are like this slide, so make sure you pay close attention to it and write down some notes about it. A quiz is worth 25 points. So you know you got something out of 25. I don't know what I got, and you got an 85%. Now, percent, we'll talk about this more in chapter 6, but percent means percent, per 100. So 85% would be 85 out of 100, and it just says to write the proportion for the situation. If you want, you could go ahead and solve it, but at least get it set up. Okay, so your number out of 25 is the same as 85 out of 100. Obviously, here you could divide by 4 to get from right to left, and so you take 85 divided by 4 in order to find that answer. Okay, fairly short lesson. Let's make sure we get everything done on these questions. Make sure you show your work on these situations, set up the proportion the way you need to. I'm especially looking at number 30. It deals with some fractions. There's not very many questions here, so you need to dedicate some time to question number 30 that deals with some common denominator and negatives with fractions. So make sure you spend a few minutes on that question. Don't just skim it. Okay, make sure you have some notes on it, and don't just write the letter for the answer on number 30. Okay, we're going to be looking for that as we move forward. Have a good day, everyone.